Welcome inside College Football Live, inside our with our orange comfy chairs here in Studio F. Chris Cotter, Danny Cannell, Jim McElwain, new head coach in Florida, and of course Steve Spurrier, the head coach at South Carolina. We continue with our SEC coaches here in studio. And I understand you two shared a plane ride up here. Coach, you may have given him advice before, but did you share anything about how to succeed down there in Gainesville as the head football coach?
He doesn't need any advice from me. He just needs to get some ball players. That's what we all do. And if he's got ball players, he's going to be fine. And they may have some real good ones down there this year. Who knows? That's why we all go play the game. But, we about 4 years ago when we started this ESPN thing, I called Jeremy Foley, the AD. I said, how about bringing your jet airplane to Columbia and picking me up? And so Muschamp and I came up, I think, last 3 years, and Jim and I today.
Coach, your high expectations, both of your programs, really, when you think about it. But at South Carolina, I think about before you arrived there was only one team that had ever won 10 games. It was Coach Morrison's Fire Ants, and now you won 11 games 3 straight years before last year. How have expectations changed from day one when you arrived there to where they are now?
Well, it changes a little bit. Certainly, we hope to win 10 or 11 all the time, but I hope we're smart enough to know that some years you lose a bunch of close games, you're not going to win 10 or 11, and that happened to us last year. We had some issues that hopefully we fixed with a new defensive coach. I think it's going to help us, and some new defensive players. We got to find a new quarterback. We have no experience at that position. But, expectations should be high. But we always, if we have a winning season and win the bowl game, that's not terrible. That's not terrible anywhere, in my opinion, in the SEC, and we're fortunate to do that the last 4 years.
Plus, you find a little joy out of beating the Hurricanes, your old rival, right?
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, Danny. I tell everybody, I got a little bit of Gator still in me, maybe 1%. And actually, when I played there, they beat us 2 out of 3. Yeah. And the last game I ever played at Florida Field, it was then, they beat us 21-16. And they beat us in the bowl game year 2000 when they had about 7 first-round NFL guys on that Miami team. They got some gracious calls that game. But anyway, they beat us. And but I'm happy that South Carolina had a winning season and that I got a win over Miami before I hang up my coaching.
My last regular season game was a loss in Gainesville, so I don't even want to be a part of this interview. I didn't want to be here, but I'm still bitter about it.
Jim, what are your expectations for your team this year? Obviously, it's a rebuilding process, and I think everybody down there understands that. But coming in and now that you've seen the players that you have, what are your expectations?
Well, I'd tell you what, we're going to go out, and the thing I like is how these guys have really taken to the transition. They're committed to each other. They've really helped this young group already, kind of indoctrinate them into the way we want things done. Mm-hmm. So, the expectations is each one of us, it doesn't matter whether we're playing tiddlywinks, we all expect to win. And that's what we're going to try to do.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Coach Spur, I want to ask you, you have a player who's listed as a wide receiver, but he really should just be called a playmaker. Pharaoh Cooper is one of the best guys in the country. Yeah. I have to imagine an offensive mind like yourself has to just have a field day drawing up plays for a guy like that.
Yeah, we got to move him around, and a lot of the media guys said, well, you can't run him every play. You can't get the ball to him every play. And I said last year we'd look back and said we should have put him in the Wildcat more. We should have. He seems to always make yards running, and he threw 2 touchdown passes. But, yeah, he's a special player. And as Jim and I, we all know you got to get the ball in the hands of your best players, and he's certainly one of the best. So we got to find ways to keep getting it to him.
Well, Coach Mack, you know this from your days as an assistant at Alabama, and I'm sure you'll learn more about it in your days at Florida. But Coach Spurrier, you're known for a quip here and there in the off season. One of the more memorable ones is you can't spell citrus without UT. We all remember that one, but there have been some other ones too. Take a listen.
The sports writers that followed me all through the Gamecock clubs, they thought I was going to tell either Clemson or Tennessee or Georgia jokes or something. I don't know. We were 7-6. The same as Tennessee and the same as Arkansas. I think they're sort of celebrating big seasons last year. Maybe if you guys can give me a good reason why they're not in a conference with all the rest of the schools, that's just something we talked about. I do feel badly for Arkansas. It's no fun getting your butt beat like this at home, homecoming and all that. We follow the rules pretty well. Maybe he knows something out there that the rest of us don't. Most of our guys have never been to Death Valley. That is the Death Valley, isn't it? Or is there another one around?
Now, the best one, we didn't have sound of the best one maybe ever that you had. free shoes you. I did pay for these shoes, all right? Just so we get that clear.
Urban Meyer, the one he liked is when you were at I tell these corny things, usually the Gator Booster or the Gamecock Booster clubs, and because they want something to laugh about. It was here that you were under investigation for the Nike shoes. A couple of guys got the free shoes. And I said, we have found a bunch of Gators that FSU hates more than the Florida Gators. It's called the NCAA Investigators. Urban said he liked that one.
You've brushed this off in the
people
past,
tell
just
me
having
those.
fun, but there's a method to your madness with this, isn't
That's
there? I mean,
off-season BS. That's all it is. I don't
you're not
say-
looking for any type of psychological
I don't talk
edge.
like that during the season. Back those years I was at Florida, Bobby Bowden would tell his corny jokes at the Seminole Booster Club. I'd tell my corny ones. Gosh, we had to do 20, 22 every year. So we had to keep it light somehow. But when the season starts, it's all pretty much business.
As an opposing coach, how do you view that? Do you guys kind of laugh it off during the offseason? Because you know it's coming, and you know sometime in the next couple of years he's going to make a comment about Florida.
Oh, there's no doubt. You know, I hope, you know what I'm saying? You kind of hope maybe you get the respect that maybe I get one of those, right?
That's right.
But at the same time, I like it. I enjoy it, and you know what? It is truly all in fun.
Just tell him you're not going to pick him up for the carpool ride. If he says
You know,
anything.
and I like I told him, I said I drive by his statue every day, you know, and I said he did win a national championship there. I'm excited. I'm flying on the plane with him.
Time for Northwestern Mutual, planning for success, and Coach McElwain knows how to do that on short notice. You look at 2013, he had Capri Bibbs, solid running game at Colorado State, and then he took an about face last year with the passing game with Grayson and with Rashard Higgins, throwing the football with a lot of success. Now he's at the University of Florida. He's back with us here on College Football Live. And what is it about your approach that enables you to kind of switch gears year to year, and how much of that are you going to have to do now that you're in the SEC?
Well, I think, first of all, you know, I'm with some really good coaches, you know, that had a lot of background in a lot of different ways of, you know, moving the football. And I'm a firm believer in you try to find out the strengths of your team, the strength of your players, and play to those. And, you know, as we kind of started going, you know, obviously we found a running game with Capri that a couple of years ago, and Garrett Grayson kind of still got a little bit better, and Rashard was a true freshman. We knew we had something special, and what those two did the next year, and you know, we added D. Hart a year ago too, you know, that really helped you balance out the game.
What have you found to be the strengths of your Florida Gator team early on?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, obviously our defense. You know, they did an outstanding job, you know, there, and their numbers speak of that. And a lot of those players are back. Lost some good ones, but at the same time, there's a lot of those guys coming back. You know, I really like our secondary. I think it's really good. We've got some good linebackers. Our numbers are down a little bit, but really good linebackers. Obviously, for us, rebuilding the offensive line is something that we're doing. We finished with, I think, 6 offensive linemen with spring ball, and now we're up to 16 offensive linemen. So there'll be a lot of fresh faces in there.
How quickly can you turn things around? And I ask you this because you come from Colorado State, where you've got to go to Texas to recruit. You got to go to California. Now you're in Gainesville, Florida.
Right.
I mean, can you turn it around 1-2 years because you have so much talent right there in state?
Well, obviously, what we need to do is do the best we can, you know, as far as trying to build our footprint and try to keep those guys in state. And that's something we're trying to do. And yet, you know, everybody recruits Florida. They're in a school in the country that doesn't recruit there. Plus, there's a lot of schools that have a lot of nice stuff. But it isn't all about stuff. You know, it's about people. It's about what that degree is going to do for you. And in our case, it's about Gators taking care of Gators once you're done.
Well, you make mention of the stuff. Now, that was a big part of why you were able to come down there is you've got to upgrade facilities in Florida. I think most people think Florida have to have as good of facilities as there is in the country, but that may not be the case. But you're addressing that, right?
That's the thing. And one of the things we needed to do is you know, simply let's go ahead and at least step in the direction that everybody else has gone from a standpoint of, and my deal is not necessarily our coaches' offices. I mean, I'm fine. I'm still in the one Coach Spurrier was in. You know, now I'm good with that. But it's about for the players, you know, our new dorms, you know, from a security standpoint, from the luxuries that they can have in those. Obviously, our academic center, our nutrition center, our Office of Student Life, and then our full practice facility has been gutted, added with the indoor. So we're moving in the right direction, and yet at the end of the day, you always have to be growing because somebody else is. So It's about constantly trying to move the needle.
One of the questions you're getting asked a lot, I asked it earlier today, and is who's your quarterback going to be? Now, I know you're not going to tip your hand, but tell me about the evaluation process that you're going to go through to find out who your starting quarterback is
Well,
going to be.
I think it's interesting because that position now, there's guys that, and you've all been around and seen them, you know, maybe have great arms or, you know, great this, great that. But at the end of the day, it's really the guy who can move the offense down the field and make the people around him better.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're going to look for when we get there in August is those guys have done an outstanding job, both our guys, as far as trying to learn what we're trying to do. But now it becomes, as a quarterback, how do those guys really rally around you during the game, during a scrimmage, you know, during practice, putting them in those situations to see how everybody else elevates around them.
It'll be fun to see how it develops. Thanks for joining us, Coach. Good seeing you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate the time.